Good afternoon, everyone. Now we are going to start chapter number 9, that is biomolecules. First of all, what do you mean by this term? Biomolecules means the carbon compounds that are present inside the living system. Clear? So biomolecules means the carbon compounds that are present in the living system. Now, if we have to study the composition of the various compounds or elements that are present inside the living system, then we have to do one experiment. Let us talk about that experiment. What we have to do in that experiment, basically, just take a living tissue. This experiment was done by the scientist. Take a living tissue. This tissue could be a leaf. It could be any, you can say any part of your liver. So suppose I have taken the part of liver. You can just take the leg of chicken. So you can take any piece of living being, any part of the living being. Now what we have to do, there is a structure called pestle and mortar. Basically that is used for grinding. At your houses you have seen a structure mixer for grinding purpose. In the similar way, in the biology we used to use mortar and pestle, and that is used for the grinding purpose. Suppose here I am having that. Okay, and inside that we have taken the living tissue. Any living tissue, maybe like this, maybe a piece of liver. So we have taken a living tissue. Now what we used to do, add trichloroacetic acid. Clear? Acetic acid, you know, it is CH3COOH. Now trichloro means 3 chlorine will be there. So just replace these H with chlorine. So this is trichloroacetic acid. CCl3COOH. Trichloroacetic acid. Am I clear? So now, in this we have to take the living tissue. After that, add trichloroacetic acid. And then just grind it. What will happen at last? There will be formation of a slurry. Right? So at last there is a formation of a slurry. Now, next what we have to do, take that slurry and we have to filter it. We can pass it with the help of a cotton cloth or any kind of cheese cloth. Cheese cloth is used for the separation of cheese basically. So we can use any kind of this thing. Okay, suppose I am drawing a strainer. Either a cotton cloth or anything we have taken. Suppose a strainer is there. You have seen that in strainer there are small boxes like this. Right, so we have taken a strainer. Now, below this we should place any kind of container or any kind of beaker. Now just pass the slurry over this. Now what will happen? What happened when you filter something? You can say the compounds or something that is having the size smaller than the pores, they will come down, and the substances that are having the size more than these pores, they will retain on the sieve only, right? So now what will happen? Slurry is there. Now here in the beaker, I'll get the filtrate. And there on the sieve, written date will be there. Am I clear? The thing that I'll get in the beaker after the filtration process, that will be known as filtrate, or I can say it as acid soluble pool. As it is soluble in acid, we have taken trichloroacetic acid. So this is also known as acid soluble pool, and that is known as that are having the size less than 800 Dalton, means the size of the compounds that are present here in this acid soluble pool, the size of those compounds, it is between 18 to 800 Dalton. So that's why the compounds that are present in this acid soluble pool, they are termed as bio micromolecules. Am I clear? We are studying about biomolecules. Biomolecules means the carbon compounds that are present in the living system. Now these carbon compounds, they are of two types on the basis of their size. If their size is between 18 to 800 Dalton, then these type of biomolecules are named as biomicromolecules, and you will obtain them in the filtrate. Am I clear? And there are some biomolecules whose size is greater than 1000 Dalton, even they are greater than 10,000 Dalton. They are known as biomacromolecules, and they will be there in the retentate. So retentate contains biomacromolecules. You can remember it like that. They are macro, they are big in size, so they will not be able to cross the cotton cloth or the cheese cloth, whatever we are using here for the filtration purpose. Am I clear? But there is a point to remember. In the retentate, as I told you, biomacromolecules will be there. Let me give you the example of biomacromolecules first. So I told you the biomolecules on the basis of their size, two types are there, biomacromolecules and biomicromolecules. Now if I talk about biomacromolecules, or in the retentate that we obtained on the sieve, basically four types of biomacromolecules, not four actually, let me tell you first. First is proteins. In the retentate on the sieve, you will get proteins. Clear? Second, you will get polysaccharides. About their structure we shall study in detail. Okay, plus we shall get the nucleic acid, and one thing, we shall get the lipids. Although the lipids we are getting in the retentate, but they are not macromolecule. It means their size is not greater than 1000 Dalton. In order to be a biomacromolecule, the size should be greater than 1000 Dalton. Even their size is greater than 10,000 Dalton. But still, if I talk about lipid, their size is not greater than 1000 Dalton. It is even lesser than 800 Dalton, that I told you in biomicromolecule. In biomicromolecule, I told you the size variation is between 18 to 800 Dalton. Its size lies in this range. So lipids, they are biomicromolecule, although they are being obtained in the retentate. Am I clear? This is important for 1 mark, even for the NEET exam also. Like if we are having the sieve, there is the beaker. In the beaker, as I told you, biomicromolecules will be obtained, and here the biomacromolecules will be retained. In the biomacromolecules, there will be present lipids, but the lipids are not biomacromolecules. In the retentate, in the acid insoluble pool, we will get lipids, but these are not biomacromolecules. Now here comes the question, if these are not biomacromolecules, then why are they present here? Why not here? Am I clear? Let me give you example of biomicromolecules first. Amino acid. Clear? We shall study about them in detail. Firstly, let us come back to this question. If lipids are biomicromolecules, then they must be here, right? They must be present here. But the lipids are not present here. They retentate. Why? Its answer is, if you have remembered chapter number 8, this cell wall, sorry, this cell membrane, it is made up of lipids. So what happened when we are grinding? If you do remember this experiment, firstly what we have done, suppose if I'm having a, here as you know we have taken the liver piece and then we have added trichloroacetic acid. This we have done, right? And we have grinded it. So when you are grinding anything, what happened? This cell membrane used to get ruptured and it forms vesicle. And due to the formation of vesicle only, although being a micromolecule, the lipids are obtained in the retentate, as during the grinding process the cell membrane, as you know the cell membrane is having lipids. So the lipids of the cell membrane, they used to make the vesicle, and due to that they are present in the retentate, not in the filtrate, but they are biomicromolecule. Am I clear with this? Now, as I told you, biomacromolecule and biomicromolecule, these are obtained in the retentate, and biomicromolecules, they are obtained in the filtrate. Or I can use the acid insoluble pool and acid soluble pool. Clear? And the size of the biomacromolecule, as you know, it is greater than 1000, even 10,000, and it is between 18 to 800 Dalton. Am I clear with this? Now biomacromolecule, as I have given you the example that we have to study polysaccharide, proteins, nucleic acid. Lipids, they come under this heading. Its example is lipids, we will discuss lipids. Its example is amino acids, we should discuss amino acid. Its example is proteins, we have to discuss proteins. Its example is polysaccharides, we have to discuss. So now, let us start amino acid first. Why I am starting only amino acid, you will get to know now. Let me start the biomicromolecule, that is amino acid. Actually, let me tell you one more thing. If we want to study the structure of protein, then firstly we have to study the structure of amino acid. As proteins, they are made up of amino acid. Suppose here I am having one amino acid. Here I am having second amino acid. Third amino acid. When these amino acids are linked, how are they linked? We shall study. Okay, so I am having the amino acids. This is first amino acid, second amino acid, third amino acid, fourth, fifth, and so on. So when the amino acids are joined with the means of peptide bond, then they result in the formation of peptide chain. So if we want to study the protein, firstly we have to study the amino acid. So let us study the amino acid. And it is a common sense thing. The amino acids, they are biomicromolecule, and when the amino acids will make a chain, that will form protein, and obviously if the amino acids are collecting, they are making a chain, then weight obviously it will increases. So the resultant protein, it is biomacromolecule. I hope this is clear. Now let us talk about the structure of amino acid. Amino acids, basically these are substituted methane. Now what is the meaning of this? Let me draw the structure of methane. This is the simplest structure that you have done in organic chemistry. This is your methane. Now, amino acids are substituted methanes, means I make the changes here only, just see. In the amino acid at this end, we are having amino group, NH2. Am I clear? Here I am having amino group. Here I'll replace it with COOH. So here I am having carboxylic group. This you have read in class 10th in chemistry. So this is your carboxylic group. Here H will be present and here the H will be replaced by R. This R could be any group, any group. I'll give you the examples. So this is the structure of amino acid. It is having one amino group, one carboxylic group, one H and one R group. And this carbon is known as alpha carbon. Okay, now this is the basic structure of an amino acid. There will be alpha carbon. With the alpha carbon, NH2 group, that is amine group, would be attached, and COOH group would be attached, and here there will be R group and there will be H. Basically this is present in all the amino acids. There are different types of amino acids on the basis of this group. Am I clear? Let me give you a few examples. As I told you, this is the basic structure of an amino acid. Alpha carbon, NH2 group, COOH group, H group. Okay, now here I have to see. Suppose if here H is attached, then this amino acid is known as glycine. Am I clear? Second example I am just giving. So, the same structure is there. NH2, H. Suppose here the R group is CH3. Now this amino acid will be named as alanine. Are you getting me? Means this structure is same in all the amino acids. They differ in this R group only. Let me give you one more example. Suppose if this CH3 group, it is being replaced by CH2OH, then this will become serine amino acid. So like this, so many types of amino acids are there. But if I talk about our body, in our body, as you know, the amino acids, they will join and form protein. So in order to make protein, only 20 types of amino acids are required. That's it. No doubt in the nature we are having so many types of the amino acid, and they just differ on the basis of this R group that I have shown you like this. Glycine is having H here. CH3 was there in alanine. CH2OH is there in serine. Similarly, I'll give you a few more examples later on. So basically, so many amino acids are there, but in our body, only 20 type of amino acids are required to make all the proteins. Your body is having so many proteins, and all the proteins are being made by only and only 20 amino acids. Clear? Now, if I talk about the 20 amino acids that are required by our body to make proteins, then these 20 amino acids are categorized as non-essential amino acids and essential amino acids. Clear? You can understand this by their name only. So in your body, the proteins are made up of 20 amino acids. So non-essential amino acids are those amino acids that are being made by your own body. Clear? These amino acids are being made by your own body. You are not taking these amino acids from your food. And these amino acids are being made by your own body, and your body is using them to make proteins. That's why they are non-essential. Like, it is being produced by your own body, so you are saying it is non-essential. We are not supposed to take it from our diet. Okay, non-essential doesn't mean that they are not required to make protein. They are required to make protein, but they are being made by your own body. Your body doesn't require them from your food. Am I clear? So these amino acids, these are made by your own body. So basically 20 amino acids are required for the synthesis of proteins, and and out of these 20, 10 amino acids are being made by your own body, and the 10 are not made by your own body. You have to take these amino acids from the food. Am I clear with this? So amino acids are of two types on the basis from where you will take them. Some we can synthesize on our own and some we have to take from our diet. Now, let us talk about a few different types of amino acid. Amino acids could be acidic or basic or neutral. They could be aromatic. Aromatic means they will be having a ring chain-like structure. Now let us draw their structure. You will get to understand it better in better way. The example of acidic amino acid is glutamic acid. Its example is glutamic acid. As it is understood from the name acid. Clear? So this amino acid is acidic in nature. Basically the acidic nature, basic nature, neutral nature, it depends upon the number of NH2 or COOH group. The basic structure of proteins, the basic structure of amino acid I told you. There is alpha carbon, there is amine group, there is carboxyl group, there is H group. It will be same in all. Here is the difference. Okay, so what happens basically in glutamic acid? Two COOH group are there. Let me make. Here in the R position, just see. CH2, CH2, COOH. The R position is occupied by this group. Now just count the COOH group. Here one was present. One is there, so 2. Number of the acidic group is more as compared to the number of the basic group. NH2 group is a basic group, COOH is an acidic group. So it is an acidic amino acid. This is the structure of glutamic acid. Am I clear? So basically whether the amino acid is acidic or basic, it will depend upon the number of the COOH group or the NH2 group. Here you can see COOH group are 2, so it is glutamic amino acid. Is this fine? Now let us talk about the basic amino acid. The example of basic amino acid is lysine. Now, as you can see now, in basic amino acid, how many NH2 group will be present? Not actually how many, means the number of the NH2 group, it will be more than the number of the COOH group. That's it. If the number of the amino group present in the amino acid is more than the number of the carboxylic group, then it will be basic in nature. Clear? Now next. If I talk about the neutral amino acid, as it is clear from the name, there will be only one amino group and one carboxylic group, or in short I can say the amino group and carboxylic group, they will be equal in number. Like its example I have given you of glycine. Again NH2 group is there. Here I am having COOH group. Here I am having H. In glycine H was there. If you count the number of amino and the carboxylic group, it is same. So it is neutral in nature. Clear? If I talk about the aromatic amino acids, then let me draw. Its example is tyrosine, phenylalanine, tryptophan, now let me make its structure. Suppose here I am having this. This is the basic structure. This will be present in all. So here I am having, suppose I am drawing the structure of tyrosine. In the tyrosine I will be having the aromatic ring. So here I will be having CH2 and then aromatic ring, just see. and here OH. So this is tyrosine. Clear? So these are the different types of the amino acids. So now another important characteristic of amino acid is that they form Zwitter ion. Now what is the meaning of this? Just let us see. As I told you about the basic structure of amino acid, it is like this. C, NH2 group, COOH group is there, H group is there. Suppose let me take the example of glycine. This is the simplest amino acid. Clear? Now, what happens in Zwitter ion basically? As you know, this is an acidic group and this is the basic group. This COOH is termed as the acidic group and this is the basic group. Now acidic group, they tend to lose the H ion. So now what will happen? This group will lose the H ion, it will become COO negative. Am I clear? Now this H ion will be taken by the NH2 group as it is a base and base tend to gain the H ion. It will be NH3 positive. So this is our Zwitter ion. Am I clear? In neutral solution, the amino acids they used to make the Zwitter ion. The H ion released by the acidic group is being taken by the NH2 group and it becomes CO negative and that becomes NH3 positive. This is Zwitter ion. Now, amino acids they can change their shape in the different medium having different pH. Suppose this is in the neutral pH. In the neutral pH, the amino acids they are present in the form of Zwitter ion. But in the acidic pH, in the basic pH, they can vary. Let me show you. Obviously, these stages are interconvertible. Let me make this Zwitter ion in the center. C, NH3 positive, COO negative, H. This is my Zwitter ion in case of the neutral pH. Now, there is one more structure. C, H is there, that is same. Now here I am having COOH and here NH3 positive. This structure is present in case of acidic medium. Clear? When the amino acid is in the neutral medium, we can see the Zwitter ion. If the amino acid is in the acidic medium, then we shall see this type of organization. And if the amino acid is present in the basic medium, then what will be the case? Just CC will be there, hydrogen. Here NH2 group will be there, but there it will be COO negative. So in the basic medium, they are present like this. Am I clear? So at the different pH, there is a change in the shape of amino acid. Not basically shape, I can say the behavior of them changes. Here they are acting as neutral. Clear? Here they are acting as basic. Means in the acidic medium, they are acting as basic. In the basic medium, they are acting as acidic. As you can see, they are giving the H ion. So in the basic medium, amino acids act as acid. Am I clear? Now let us come to our structure, that is protein. And as I told you, protein is a bio-macromolecule. The amino acid was bio-micromolecule. And when the amino acids will join, it results in the formation of a peptide chain, and proteins are polypeptides. So obviously the weight will increase. So proteins are bio-macromolecule. Now, actually what happens in proteins, like I told you, the amino acids, they are joined. Am I clear? If this, suppose, let me talk it as first amino acid, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So in proteins, what is happening? The amino acids are being joined by the peptide bond. Clear? So Like this, the chain will be formed having so many peptide bond and having so many amino acids. And proteins are heteropolymer. They are not homopolymer, they are heteropolymer. Now here comes the question, what is the meaning of heteropolymer? Hetero means different. As you can see, protein is a polymer. It is made up of amino acids. So many amino acids known as the monomer, they will join to form the protein. So protein is a polymer. Now protein is heteropolymer, means the different monomers that are joining, they need not to be same. Suppose if one amino acid is there and that amino acid is glycine, then it is not necessary that the second amino acid will be glycine only. It could be serine. Third amino acid, suppose it could be tryptophan. So basically protein is heteropolymer. The different monomer units, they are different and these are being joined by which bond? Peptide bond. Clear? Now if I talk about the different structures of protein, first of all let me talk about the functions of protein. You are very well aware of the different functions of protein. First function that you know, it is the structural component of our body. Our nails, they are made up of protein, keratin protein. Our hair, they are made up of protein, keratin protein. Clear? So structural proteins are there. Second, you have read about hemoglobin. Hemoglobin helps in the transportation of oxygen. This hemoglobin is again a protein. Clear? So it helps in the transportation of oxygen. Third, proteins are used as enzymes. You have read enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. So there are a few proteins that increases the rate of reaction. They are enzymatic in action. Proteins can also be used as hormones. Okay, if I talk about in the cartilage, in the bone, we are having a ground substance that provides lubrication. That is again a protein. That is a collagen protein. Collagen protein is there. This is present in the cartilage, bone as a ground tissue. It provides the lubrication. Okay, so again it is proteinaceous in nature. Insulin. Insulin is also a protein, and you have read it that insulin, it helps in the regulation of the sugar level inside our body. This you might be knowing, if the level of insulin decreases in our body, then the persons are used to suffer from diabetes. So these are the different functions of protein. Proteins are also as a transporting molecule. They are carrier. Like in chapter number 14, I told you that in the electron transport system, we are having the different carriers. These carriers are made up of molecule. So proteins are also used as transporters. So these are the different functions of proteins. Now let us talk about the structure of protein. So we are basically having the fourth structure of protein: primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. Clear? So now let us study about them one by one. In the primary structure, the amino acids are joined in a linear manner. Means with the help of primary structure, we can just say which amino acid is at the first position, which is at the second position, and which is at the last position. Suppose here one amino acid is there, second, third. You can see the amino acids are joined in a linear fashion, where we can tell which is the first amino acid, which is the second, which is the fourth, and so on. Which is the last amino acid. Suppose let me denote it by N. So this is simply the primary structure of protein. Clear? Now, this end, we start starting end where the first amino acid is present, this is known as N-terminal. The first end is known as N-terminal, and the last here, where the last amino acid is present, it is known as C-terminal. I hope I am clear with the primary structure of the protein. Now what happened in the secondary structure? Let us talk about the secondary structure. This protein thread that you have seen right now, by the joining of the amino acids we got a protein thread. Now in the secondary structure, this protein thread, it used to make a helix. The protein thread, it used to make a helix. You have seen the rounded staircase. It is like that. Just see. Am I clear? The protein has made a helical structure, and in the proteins we are having right-handed helix. Clear? So in the secondary structure, the protein thread, it used to make a helix, and this is right-handed helix. This structure you might have seen in the rounded staircase, in some museums or in some buildings also, in a few houses also, this type of staircases are present. Now, if I talk about the example of secondary protein, it is keratin, which is present in our nails, in the hair. Basically, the secondary structure, it is structural part of our body. The secondary protein, they used to make the structural part of our body, like nails, hair. Clear? Now, if I talk about the tertiary structure, in tertiary structure, there is one polypeptide chain, mind it. Only one polypeptide chain. How it is arranged, we are studying. In the primary structure, there was just linear arrangement where we can tell which is the first amino acid, which is the last. That's it. In the secondary structure, that protein thread is arranged in the form of the helix. In the tertiary structure, the polypeptide chain, I am talking about only one polypeptide chain. The polypeptide chain, that is the protein chain basically, it is coiled on itself. The polypeptide chain is coiled on itself, which results in the formation of a structure that you have seen in a wool ball. You have seen a wool ball. The wool is rounded over itself, result in the formation of a rounded structure. This is what is happening. The polypeptide chain, it is being rounded on itself only, like this. Just see the structure. Am I clear? There is a single polypeptide chain that is wounded on itself, that is folded on itself. Number of folds are quite high, and the polypeptide chain, it plays a very important role. The tertiary proteins, basically they work as enzymes, hormones. The functions of our body, basically these are controlled by tertiary proteins only. As I told you, secondary proteins, they used to make the structure. They are the structural proteins. But the rest of the functional proteins are tertiary proteins only, in which the one polypeptide chain is present and it is rounded over. Clear? Now if I talk about the last structure of the protein, that is quaternary structure. Now here, more than one polypeptide chain is involved and they are rounded over each other. In the tertiary structure, we were having only one polypeptide chain that was rounded. Now in quaternary structure, we are having more than one polypeptide chain that is rounded over each another. Suppose here I am having a tertiary protein. Suppose here I am having another tertiary protein. This is made up of one polypeptide chain. This is made up of one polypeptide chain. Here I am having another tertiary protein. Then these all will be bonded on themselves. All. Clear? It results in the formation of quaternary structure when more than one polypeptide chains are present. Is it fine? In the primary structure, the amino acids were arranged linearly. That's it. Showing the first amino acid, second amino acid, right, the last amino acid. In the secondary structure, the protein thread was showing coiling, right-handed coiling. In the third primary structure, there was one polypeptide chain that was rounded on itself, that was folded on itself. And in the last, we are having more than one polypeptide chain. Like its example is hemoglobin. In hemoglobin, we are having 4 polypeptide chain. As you can see, the 4 chains are there. If 4 chains are there, then the structure must be quaternary. Not 4 actually. If the polypeptide chains are more than 1, it is quaternary structure. In hemoglobin, if I talk about, we are having 2 alpha chain and 2 beta chain. So it makes 4. 4 polypeptide chains are present. Am I clear with this topic? Thank you.